Good day, my name is Joe Gerba, and today I'm with my buddy Devin, one half of Dads and Dice, for this new series that we'd like to call Meet Me Halfway, which is just, we both live in different states, about 3 hours away, so we found this, Devin found this public library space that we could rent about an hour and a half away from both of us. Both drove an hour and a half and played about 8 hours of games.
Yeah, so it was, Joe and I have known each other now for, probably
16, 17 years.
Yeah, a long time. Let's put it that way. And we have always loved playing games together. We've mentioned it before in previous videos on both of our channels, really. And so we move apart, whatnot, and really we were able to reconnect on things like Board Game Arena and playing stuff online. But thankfully, doing something like this lets us actually get things right to the table and play in person, which we love to do. And so this was an awesome idea, and I'm glad I came.
Yeah, so this is our second time we've met up. The first time we're doing this recording. Last time we had both halves of Dads and Dice here, the full crew of all three of us. This time just us. So we're going to go through a couple of the games that we've played today.
All right, so let's start it off with kind of the order that we played. Codex, Card Time Strategy. Joe, what did you think?
It was Magic the Gathering meets a little bit of StarCraft, meets a little bit of Mage Wars, building-esque. The attacks, just like Magic, it was really neat. It was fairly quick, with a little bit more, crafting as you go.
Yeah, so I honestly really enjoyed this game. It really kind of grew on me the more the day went on. I thought back to it several times. It gave me that Magic the Gathering feel that I haven't played in 15 years, and just the back and forth. Overall, I do think we had a long kind of discussion about whether we thought it was balanced or not, and I really kind of do. I think Joe ended up winning, but I think it was like a turn away. I was winning, and so anytime a game comes down to that close, it's really good.
So this game had, it was pitted against two factions. There are 6 factions total. It's not a living card game. You buy the sets and you get what you get. So once you have the collection, you can kind of mix and match, but you have everything there. So it was a neat game. And is there anything you didn't like about this game, Devin?
Man, I would really have to think about that coming off the top of my head. I'll tell you some of the things I liked about that. I really liked that it was not just a raw card game, that you had the different technologies that you built, that you had your little add-on that you built, that you had a base's health, right? Even in the cards, I had upgrades that had health. You could win and attack, and you're like, wow, that upgrade's really good. I'm going to attack it. And it's got no defense or anything. You could have spent a turn attacking it. I really like that. It really opened up. And that, as you kind of said, StarCraft, you feel you can kill anything that's out there, right? Like, if you don't like the pylons, you go for the pylons.
But and that's the thing about this game, where in Magic you have your core health of 20. Well, you still have that core base health of 20, but you can attack the buildings. But if you're attacking the buildings, you're not working on the core. So there's a lot of decisions to be made, and I think there's a lot of choice in this game. Like Magic, if you have a bad draw, kind of stings. In this game, you and I both had the realization, however many cards you have at the end of the round, you discard them, and you draw that many +2 next round. There was a couple times where kind of cards.
Yeah, like I really needed some more cards. And that mentions I don't know what you would call it, deck building aspect of it. So you start with a very basic deck, and you have this Codex, right? And so each turn you get to add cards into your discard pile that you'll then eventually play. And so you got to pick what you wanted. Joe did a really good job of kind of seeing what I was doing and reacting to it a whole lot better than I did. I just kind of went raw power, and Joe really did good at countering that, so I like that. I guess you mentioned something I may not have liked. maybe because I come from such a Magic background, the not being able to do anything on the opponent's turn, like I wanted that instant. I wanted that, oh, and here's a little bit of defense, or here's that. So I don't know, I craved that because so much of this felt like Magic that I kind of expected to have that, but it was a good and bad thing too.
Yeah, and and I would say that's probably one of my negatives was, like you said, you're just, and the same thing, like I had the same thing with Warhammer, on the other person's turn, there's nothing you can do but just sit there and hope that you can weather the blow. Because on your turn, you need to do the damage, on their turn, you got to take it. So, like he said, just not a whole lot on the other turn, but overall, it was an enjoyable game. Is it a must play? In my opinion, probably not, but for the Magic fan, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
So that was enough on Codex. So our next game, Devin actually brought for a little filler surprise. I'll let him explain that for a second.
Yeah, so I actually went to a little convention about a month ago, and I won a handful of games, and Ice Duo was a part of it. And so Ice Duo is actually made up of 2 games. The first one we played was Ice Dice. I kind of snuck this in with Joe, and it's really just a quick push your luck type of game. Honestly plays in like 5 minutes. Nothing really much to talk about there, but I'll talk about the second part of the game, which was Twin Wing, and it's really kind of a neat little 10-minute strategy game. You've got these little pyramids and you have to move them around, and you've got a secret objective, whether it's making a tree of them or creating a nest of them. And so you're trying to do your objective while also disrupting your opponent doing theirs. And it was actually really fun for what was packed in this small little 10-minute box.
I mean, usually aren't my styles of game. The push your luck, side of the game was okay. But the aesthetics of just being able to stack these pyramids on top of each other, just something was fun about, this. Is it like a must-have or anything? Probably not. But man, for like a filler at a filler on a day, we played for, it looks like 7 hours. It was nice to break up the big games, these 2-hour games, with a nice 15-minute game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I brought it for. I just kind of threw it in there. And I honestly learned the game last night. It took me 5 minutes to read the rule book, and we were playing it. So. Yeah,
like I said, these aren't usually my favorite games, but it's nice. You have to realize that sometimes you just need a break. And go from heavy game to heavy game. So I'm glad Devin thought of that, and I'll probably be thinking about this game on the way home.
There you go. But so that was Codex. We broke it up with the Ice Dice, and then we moved on to Stronghold here. Joe, this was the game that really got us to get together to play. We both saw this game in the haul video that Paul and I did, and I instantly was like, oh, this is the game for me and Joe. You get to be the attacker, I get to be the defender. Let's go hash this thing out. What did you think?
2-player games are my jam. I was looking forward to this. As we were playing this game, we played some Lord of the Rings music, kind of got that ambiance of the Helm's Deep, defenders, and as the attacker, you have a lot of options. You have a lot of things you can do on your turn. All you're trying to do is breach the wall, trying to plan your attack, shoot them with catapults. And from the attacker's standpoint, this was a lot of fun. Now, we do have the first edition that Devin did buy in the haul. And so there is a second edition that may have some tweaks. So everything we're talking about is from first edition. The attacker had a lot of varying powers. However, halfway through the game, we kind of look over, and then Devin, the defender, doesn't look like he's having as good of a time.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. I joke around that I can easily have sore loser syndrome, right? It's a flaw of mine, I know, and I don't think that was what it was from this. It was really the feeling of. So the game was, for us, first playthrough was about 2.5 hours long. I would say on average it's going to be about a 2-hour playthrough game. For an hour and 15 minutes of that, you as the defender are going to feel on the back foot, right? You are behind the 8 ball. You are action starved. It's how the game's supposed to be. The game really is meant for the attacker is going to at some point breach the wall, and then you add up the victory points. It's not super fun as the defender to see these massive armies coming and knowing that I'm going to spend all of these resources to only pop off an orc here, or I'm going to do all of this to possibly in the whole game it's going to kill 2 trolls, right? And it's just, it ended up being this, as I told Joe, an hour of me just kind of sitting there like, one, I'm thinking really hard because I still want to try and win, but like thinking, golly, I have to do this and I'm behind here and this. And then on the other side, right, in the position Joe, that's the best part of the game. Like, I have all these people here, and I'm going to attack over here, and I'm going to do this, and I can win from over here. And so it was 2 different outlooks, right? Joe's was, oh man, how can I win the game? I can break the walls here. And mine was, oh man, how can I not lose this game? And so I don't know, it didn't quite do it for me. It was not enjoyable for me. Now, I told Joe I would definitely play again. I would even play again as the defender because the mechanics of the game were really good. The way the whole system works, so every action Joe did gave me a certain amount of actions, right? And so it was a cool design of the game. Just, man, you're going to feel bad as the defender.
Right, and it was, every action that the attacker does do, you have to really think, do I want to give the defender actions? But that can also limit their fun too, because you have a plan in your head and you can also trickle actions to the defender, which I also can see that kind of, it was an interesting game, we'll give it that. We definitely would want to give it more playthroughs because this is a game that Devin and I have been 2-player gaming for a long time. Yes. This is a game we should like. Right. But it just didn't quite hit for us, did it? Like, it didn't get that first impression, I need to play again.
Yeah, like we honestly kind of expected to come down here, play Stronghold, and be like, wow, let's play Stronghold again and scrap rest these games. And it just didn't do that for us. But that's okay. Not every game is for everyone. I think that's enough about Stronghold. Let's move on to the last game. We decided to do a cooperative game. We did Village Attacks.
Yeah, this was an interesting one. So instead of this isn't quite our style of game. We're not usually the zombie side or the massive miniatures, just hordes of miniatures moving and taking them off. But this you play as the bad guys, trying to protect your lair from these from the villagers coming in and the heroes and the hunters. So
first, let's say minis on minis on minis. The game came with so many minis that we laughed about it. We're like, first, I don't know if you can tell, but this is Villager Attack Space Box. These are all mini boxes. Minis on minis on minis. And we laughed because we're like, wow, this is way too many minis. Until we played it, and dang near all those minis were out on the table at one point in time.
But it was a dice action mechanic. You roll your 6 dice on the turn. You choose where they go. And I'm not a big fan of the D6 system. I feel like it's limiting. And really it's limiting when each side of the dice does a different action. And if you don't roll the ones you need, your turn's kind of, it's just kind of, it fizzles out. What did you think about that mechanic?
Yeah, so that was probably the roughest part of it, and there's got to be a better way to do that. I don't know if it's changing the dice base, because that was exactly it. Essentially on the dice, there was one side was a melee attack, one side was a ranged attack, and the others were what's put in the special category, right? Well, most of this game is revolved around attacking those villagers. So when 1/3 of the dice can do that and 2/3 of the dice are situational stuff, it got you into some really tough binds that you shouldn't have been in when the game's already throwing a whole bunch of overwhelming hordes at you. I won't say it was a bad game.
No.
I think we had fun playing it. Again, it was really neat. I played a Headless Horseman, and Joe played a Banshee Queen, and the different abilities, and then honestly the flavor in the whole game in general between the minis. They had different types of villagers. You had regular old peasants. You had like demon hunters that were coming after you, or you had the good old town hero, and they were the special ability guys like the grave digger. And it was really, really flowing the theme.
It was, and for we played 2 characters. It suggests you can play with 4. I can see this game being interesting with 4 or 5 if you have some snacks beside you, if you got a drink in your other hand, if you're just kind of having a good time, milling around the table, rolling the dice, removing these miniatures, getting them back on. This is just a really light game. There isn't much tactics to this game.
And that was really it. And it's, again, Joe mentioned it's not typically our style game. We also don't typically play cooperative games in general. Joe and I are both very competitive people, and we want to beat each other. And so I agree. This would be a break from the gaming session. Hey, you know what? We just played this all-out brutal Stronghold or whatever. Let's just go chunk some dice and kill some villagers, and that's definitely the slot that it fills.
Right. So Devin, we had 7 hours of gaming. Which of these was probably your surprise hit, or one you just liked? What was one big takeaway of what we played today?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna make you go first. You're the host. You tell me. What was your favorite?
Well, I'd probably say Codex, because you and I have such a rich Magic the Gathering history that this kind of scratched the itch of playing a competitive card game.
Okay, so I kind of agree with that. It had that Magic the Gathering feel. It was that head-to-head that we love. It was very back and forth. This was. Now, I might actually go with Twin Win out of Ice Duo. It was this 10-minute strategy game. I can't explain how fun it really was to play for this 10-15 minutes of moving stuff around and trying to beat you, and I'm gonna foil your plans while also doing mine. I don't know. It was surprisingly fun.
Well, I appreciate you guys for watching. Once again, check out Devin's channels. He's one half of Dads and Dice. Hopefully we can do this soon in another episode of Meet You Halfway, and maybe next time Paul will come along and we'll be busy for the weekend, and we'll do a couple, some 3-player games that you can show on the channels. Well, that's all for our first episode of Meet You Halfway. Thanks for Devin for meeting me halfway and playing a lot of games in the day, and maybe next time we can bring Paul along and we can get some 3-player games in.
That's right. Thank you so much, Joe, for doing this. Always a pleasure playing games with you, and I can't wait to beat you next time.
All right, guys. Well, until next time. So, Devin, got any last words?
No. I screwed that up real bad. Make a cut. Or do the whole thing again.
We have to do the whole thing again.
Okay.
I forgot what I left with. All right, so Devin, maybe at the end,
because we were just doing. That's gonna be a weird cut. We need.
I do a blur.
Okay.
I do a little
okay.
video blur. Cut.